morning. My name is Amanda Rivera. I'm the hearing examiner presiding over today's case. The date is February 5th, 2026, and this is case DCI2023-00045. It's a rezoning request to the CPD district in the Greater Pine Island Planning Community. Because this is a quasi-judicial hearing, all evidence and testimony must be taken under oath. So if you intend to speak, if you could please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will provide is the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So the way that we'll proceed this morning is first we're going to hear from the applicant. They're going to present their request in the case and call any witnesses that they may have in support of that request. Following that, we'll turn to the county staff. They're going to give us their review of the case and their recommendation. In this case, they are recommending approval with conditions, including some deviations. After that, I'll open up the public comment period and I'll call the cards that I have in the order that I have them. There is only one opportunity to speak, but there is no time limitation. So I encourage you to take notes as you go through things this morning so you can make the most of your time at the podium. After we hear from the public, we'll come back to the applicant and the staff for any rebuttal if they need to address any of the comments that they've heard, and then closing comments. After that, I will issue my recommendation to the board, who will have the final hearing on this matter. So if you speak today, you can speak at the board hearing, but your comments are limited to the comments that you make on the record today. So with that, we can begin whenever the applicant is ready. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner, and thank you. My name is Richard Aiken. I'm an attorney with Henderson Franklin here in Fort Myers. I'm here this morning on behalf of the applicant and the Blue Dog CPD. Greg Stewart is the project planner. He's also here with me this morning and will handle a significant portion of our presentation. Bill Oliver is our traffic consultant / parking consultant. He prepared a study as part of this application. He also has part of the presentation. He's running a little late, so he's not yet in the room, but I anticipate he'll be here shortly. We'll just make sure he gets sworn in before he gets up here.
Thank you.
So before I begin, I do just have a couple of administrative matters to take care of for you. We did revise the master concept plan in response to some comments in the staff report. So we have revised that to reflect the accurate connection separations. I believe there was also another typo with regard to the setback to the water body from the rear deck. I don't believe that got incorporated into the final master concept plan from discussing it this morning, so we may need to leave the record open to revise that last thing. However, I do have for you an 11 by 17 or two 11 by 17s and a full-size master concept plan, and I'll provide those.
Okay, thank you. So I will make that applicant exhibit 3. Thank you. Applicant exhibit 1 was the affidavit that was provided, and applicant exhibit 2 was the 48-hour letter that was submitted. So I already have those in the record.
Very good. And I also have for you, we referenced a couple of exhibits in our 48-hour letter, specifically resolutions and letters of support for members of the community, including a resolution of the Matlacha Civic Association, from the Greater Pine Island Chamber of Commerce, and as well as the Greater Pine Island Alliance. I have copies of those that I'll provide to you. And finally, I have 2 copies of our PowerPoint presentation for you.
Excellent, thank you. So those will be labeled as applicant exhibits 4 and 5 respectively. Thank you, and thank you. Give me just one moment to mark these, please. Okay.
Mr. Blackwell, the remote here doesn't seem to be working.
Try it now.
There we go. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So, Madam Hearing Examiner, you also noted the 48-hour letter that was submitted in this matter. As you know from that letter, we indicated that we were in agreement with the staff report and the conditions with regard to each of the deviations requested. I did note one small area of clarification that had to do with the outdoor consumption on premises, just to note that this was the public hearing that was necessary. I have spoken with Mr. Blackwell and staff, and I think we're in agreement on all matters at this time. So,
just for point of clarification on that, when you said that you were in agreement with the proposed conditions and the deviations, does that include the suggestion to withdraw many of the deviations that staff suggested?
Correct, because they're already memorialized in the administrative the administrative amendment to the zoning that exists. So there's ADD 2010-00082 that memorializes many of the deviations that we were requesting. So they've already been approved. I think we were not clear as far as the application on whether they needed to be carried forward in this new CPD or whether it would make sense to have them all in one place. It doesn't matter as long as it's memorialized that they've already been approved to us.
Okay.
All right. So just as a brief introduction, the Blue Dog Restaurant, which is the subject of this CPD, is located in Matlacha. You can see it outlined in yellow here on the slide in front of you, with frontage on Pine Island Road. This would be back towards the Matlacha Bridge, and Cape Coral over here, going down towards the bottom of your screen would be onto Pine Island. North is more or less this direction on your screen. You can see that there's an access canal that abuts the Blue Dog Restaurant directly behind it, and then there's the Matlacha Community Park, which is behind the restaurant across the canal. This is a community park that has typical things you'd see in a park: open space, playgrounds. It has a boat ramp with trailer parking, things like that. It's a fairly well-used park in the Matlacha area. As you noted, the request is to go from currently a C1 conventional commercial district to a minor CPD. We also have a request for outdoor consumption on premises and a number of deviations, and really this is about the deviations, frankly. So we do agree with the staff report on the findings. There are two parcels here, basically sort of like this. There's two addresses, 4597 and 4601 Pine Island Road. It adjoins commercial to what would essentially be the west, as well as the park in the rear. It's about 0.45 acres, and this structure is a contributing structure within the Matlacha Historic District, and as I'm sure you saw in the staff report, and as we'll explain a little bit, there are a number of certificates of appropriateness and other things that you'd expect for a property that is in the historic district. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of historic context here for this property, and I will tell you that basically, as you probably gathered from the staff report, this case really is born out of a number of code violations that came up on site, right? And there's a number of different things that we've tried to do to resolve those through this CPD application. The primary one has to do with the outdoor seating that is to the rear of the building. There's an outdoor deck, and the outdoor seating caused a parking issue with regard to the number of parking spaces. So that's the one that we've had to work through. There are some others with regard to the layout of the parking lot, things of that nature. Don't think those are particularly difficult, and I really don't think the parking one is today as we sit here, but it took us some time to work through those, as you can probably tell from the date of the application. So just a little bit of background of the Matlacha Historic District. It's one of 13 historic districts in Lee County, as I'm sure you well know. The village history is kind of interesting. In the 1930s, along the Causeway area, here, many squatters basically began to commercial fishing uses, and then it developed as it sort of is today. They got rights as a result of that. The Causeway Island morphology is characterized with very small quarter-acre lots, and as you know, these lots suffered a lot of damage to what was on them during the hurricanes recently, and are struggling to redevelop, as most of the properties in the area are. In 1949, the Blue Dog site in the building was originally a commercial fish house. So again, you can see the Blue Dog down here. This was a commercial fish house with access down the canal, so it was where they would bring and ice down the fish that they would catch and then take it and sell it. A commercial seafood restaurant and restaurant uses were approved in 1991. This was formerly known as the Mulletville Restaurant. The Blue Dog building has generally maintained the fish house footprint, and the building site has pretty much stayed the same since that time with the configuration. There's been some changes. There was an indoor COP back in 1985 for consumption on premises. In 1991, there was some relief for setbacks, parking space requirements, and parking lot surfaces. And then the Mulletville LDO was obtained in 2012 for some parking lot improvements. The owner applicant in this case, which is the Blue Dog Restaurant, was established in 2014, land acquired by the current owner in 2014. So this restaurant, the Blue Dog, has existed since at least 2014. It was the Mulletville Restaurant before that. And one of the interesting things that you'll note, as probably as part of the staff report and reference to the existing ADD, is that when we talk about this rear outdoor seating area, and you can sort of see it here on this aerial, the ADD in 2010 actually approved the existing setback from the water body for that outdoor seating area. It was just called an outdoor concrete deck at that point in time. So that's existed for quite a while. It's not a new structure. It was not added on by the owner. Instead, what I think occurred was I believe, and you'll probably hear some testimony from the public, it's my understanding, although I don't have personal knowledge of it, that the restaurants, even going back to the Mulletville times, use that outdoor area as seating. It's been there. It's not some new use. It's not some new novel idea. It's just simply that as part of the historical nature, the structure had been there for a while. There were some ADDs and some COAs and some things that happened to approve and get deviations. Nobody ever thought to get a deviation for the outdoor seating area or for the COP outdoors. And nobody ever thought that, hey, if we've got additional seating area, it creates additional parking demand under the code, and how would we deal with that? So even though the use has probably been going on, as I think you're going to hear for quite some time, just this process never occurred. So that's why we're here today. A little bit about the permitting background. I've already stated some of it, so I won't belabor it, but that 2010 ADD has really got a lot of the existing deviations already in it. Happy to talk about those more if you would like to. But it was for the approval of many of the setbacks, including the front setbacks, the rear setbacks, setbacks from the water body for the outdoor seating deck. There was some parking, the parking lot, as far as it didn't have to be paved. It was allowed to be shell or otherwise gravel parking lot. In 2012, there was an LDO that implemented that ADD, that 2010 ADD, with the parking lot improvements. There was also an alternative betterment plan for the landscaping, which is being brought forward as part of this. There were some COMs for building restoration as well as alterations. There was a COM for grease trap removal, things of that nature, as you would expect in the historic district. Not terribly relevant, but it is just a little bit of historical background. So today our CPD, as I indicated, is to address the violation for the outdoor consumption. There's a couple other, as well as the outdoor seating, there's another violation regarding to the fence, which is not really specifically addressed by this today. But that sort of sets the background for why we're here, how we got here. And if you have any questions on that, I would be happy to answer them before I turn it over to Mr. Stewart to talk about the application.
I guess just from a very technical in the weeds questions then, is it the intent that the ADD is going to be incorporated by reference into the zoning, or is it just being so wholly encompassed that we don't even need to address it after this?
My preference would be that it get incorporated and referenced into the zoning because it exists. I think there's always a question, and I understand staff's comments as far as the recommendation to withdraw deviations that were already approved. I just want it to be clear in whatever ultimate resolution comes out that it doesn't supersede and that those prior deviations that were granted continue to move forward, because I believe that is the intent of the staff report and the intent of the application.
And
Does that make sense?
It does. And as a question, then as a practical matter, is the parking demand that was created by virtue of the outdoor patio, is that an actual issue that's occurring on the ground that's creating off-site impacts, or is that just a strict matter of code that they're not meeting the letter of the code and the parking requirement?
So I believe it is a strict matter of code, and you're going to hear testimony about that today. We did a parking demand study. Mr. Oliver did that. He studied some other sites. We also did parking surveys on site to determine how many spaces were actually being used on site, how many spaces we did surveys that asked people, hey, how did you get here? Did you walk? Did you bike? Did you park somewhere else? And Mr. Stewart's going to testify to that a little bit. And I also think some of the members of the public here who live in Matlacha and frequent the Blue Dog restaurant can provide factual testimony that would be helpful on that point. So the bottom line is our case is that no, there is no actual parking issue on site. It's not been observed. It's not been a parking problem. Mr. Lynch, who owns the Blue Dog, is also here, and he'll tell you that, and I understand for the purposes of the code, I've been through the code, I've discussed this with staff, that this doesn't really matter, but I do think it's it matters factually, and that is that Mr. Lynch will tell you that he has off-site parking agreements with several other businesses that would allow him and his staff to use those properties to park on. I understand strictly from the code, reduction of parking, it doesn't work that way. However, I do believe that it can be considered factually as to whether the deviation is appropriate that we're requesting. And as you also know, there were changes to the land development code recently that allowed the parking calculations changed for historic properties. And look, the other reality is this park that is, the Matlacha Community Park is right here. There's a lot of parking here. And we fully understand that we can't use that park to calculate our parking, right? But we also understand the realities that sometimes people may park there, that there is parking there, that they may park there and walk throughout because they don't know where they're going. They may not be going to the Blue Dog first. They may be going to one of the art galleries, or they maybe want to walk around the park. I think that that's just a reality of what the parking is in the Matlacha Historic District that can be considered. So the bottom line is no, I don't believe that there is, and I think our evidence that Mr. Stewart and Mr. Oliver will present will show there is no actual parking problem on the ground with regard to the additional outdoor seating or at the Blue Dog in general. It's just a code. It's just the code requires X number of spots.
And what is the posture of the code violations that you mentioned? There were several that were mentioned. Have those gone to hearing? Are they in a state of, have fines been assessed, or they're still in the process?
They're still in the process. We've been in constant communication with county staff on those because one of the primary violation with regard to the parking and the outdoor seating couldn't be resolved without a CPD or removing something. And part of the conversations there was, if we have to remove the outdoor deck, the issue is it's been there and it's actually approved by the way of an ADD, the structure itself. So no, the answer is there's been no fines assessed. We have continued to communicate with staff. They have not taken those to hearing with the full understanding that we are going through this process to resolve the issues.
Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Greg? Oh, one more thing before I sit. I also have, for when Mr. Oliver gets here, I believe he's been accepted as an expert previously, but he said it's been quite some time, so I have a copy of his updated resume and we'll go through that. I know Mr. Stewart's been here before, so.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner, staff, fellow audience. Let me just make sure I have this. Okay. For the record, Greg Stewart. I've been certified in both Florida and the state of Washington as an expert in comprehensive urban regional land use planning and zoning, land development, and real estate finance. But in addition, Madam Hearing Examiner, I do want to put on the record, I'm almost a 29-year resident of Matlacha. In those 29 years, I've had the opportunity of observing how Matlacha works. You know, probably been to the park over 300 times, been to the Blue Dog a few times, I would say, various stores and shops, fished on the bridge. So when I get into my testimony, a lot of it, not a lot of it, but some of it deals with my personal observations and experience. The zoning request encompasses approximately 4,537 square feet. That excludes the ancillary cooler sheds. We did not calculate them, so when you write your order, maybe you make an annotation on that. Two structures exist on the property. The primary restaurant structure consists of the indoor air conditioned area, 2,704 square feet, the outdoor patio at 795 square feet, and the outdoor service area at 745. The catering business is 293 square feet. The deviations 1 through 5 are carryover, you know, from the ADD, and we are withdrawing those pursuant to staff's recommendation. 6 and 9 are withdrawn, and then I would like to get into detailed presentation in depth on the other deviations. The master concept plan, in essence, has not changed. No change in the footprint, no change in the location of the deck, the concrete deck, the concrete patio and the wooden deck, no change in the footprint or location of anything. The principal change in the master concept plan pertains to circulation. I'll fast forward this one. The original ADD and LDO basically had two separate driveways. The parking lots were disconnected, forcing cars to, you know, back up. What we're proposing is a flow-through parking and circulation area, which functionally is a lot better. But because of that, it does require a number of deviations pertaining to the parking lot geometry, which I'll get into. The landscaping is based on the previous alternative landscape betterment plan, you know, ADD 2010-00082. The standards are in front of you, so we are continuing with those standards. And as an example, the west site boundaries in modified type D, 10 feet with 5 palms and a double hedge. The Matlacha Park Road boundary has a 10-foot buffer with 4 trees and 18 shrubs per 100 linear feet. Pine Island Road is a standard type D, and then the canal is modified water body, so it's a 10-foot, 4 trees and 18 shrubs. With regard to the future improvements, What this slide illustrates on the top building.
So that on the bottom, it said that deviation 8 was withdrawn.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you caught that. That is a typo. Deviation 8 is not withdrawn. Staff has approved it. That slipped in, and I just caught that while I was sitting there, so thank you very much. Deviation remains in effect. We agree with staff recommendation. The future improvements, the front building facade, the top slide with the orangish color shows what the facade ultimately will look like if, in fact, they go forward with enclosing the subject outdoor storage area. The bottom 3 slides show the facades as they exist. So you have the south canal facing facade, the west facing facade, and the east facing facade showing as is. That will not change currently, although if you look at the master concept plan, there is a note that shows the service area with the possibility in the future to be enclosed with a walk-in cooler. So what this graphic shows, and what this slide shows, is what the facade will look like. For simplicity, I didn't show the other facades, what they would look like. I just wanted to show the front elevation, since that is the public-facing Pine Island Road. We will be currently and in the future will be consistent with the Pine Island Plan, Objective 24.5, the Historic Resources section, and also the Pine Island Plans, Chapter 33, their design standards embedded in Article 3. So any improvements that we do, will be matching more or less the general height, hip type roof structure, building facade, size of windows, coloring, and the like. So any future improvements, of course, we'll have to go through a certificate of appropriateness review, but it will be consistent. The project's designed to be consistent with the LDC and the Lee plan.
Mr. Stewart, can you wait just one moment?
Sure. Am I speaking to?
My battery is drained.
Oh, okay.
We just have a battery.
Usually I speak too fast, and I'm trying to slow it down. That's why I'm stumbling, because I'm used to speaking fast. Okay.
I apologize.
No, that's all right.
Okay, we're charging, thank you.
Okay, the next slide, Madam Hearing Examiner. The graphics show the patio and the wooden deck. It shows people enjoying the outdoor dining area. The outdoor dining area is a significant amenity and draw to the restaurant. It's of significant importance to the economic vitality of the restaurant. As such, we have a lot of community support, as you see. The restaurant itself is fundamental to Mount Lachey's post-hurricane recovery. I don't know if you've been out there, but we just got we got as bad a hit as town of Fort Myers Beach. So keeping the outdoor deck and patio is essential because it basically presents well over 30% of the seating capacity. Now, in terms of jobs and economic development and public support, currently it supports 60 to 70 jobs. Again, it's a very popular social and dining area. We are maintaining the structure as is, so from a cultural perspective, having a viable interior matches a viable exterior in regard to historic preservation. We do have on record letters of support from the Pine Island Alliance, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Mount Lachey Civic Association has offered a resolution of support. With regard to LDC consistency and 34-145 hearing examiner approval criteria, the CPD zoning and the outdoor consumptive use request is based on the long-standing use of the property, as Mr. Akins pointed out. It is supported by alternative parking and land development standards that have been approved by staff, and we appreciate staff's hard work and diligence on that. We agree with staff findings embedded in the staff report pages 4 through 6 and page 13. I would like to point out the following goals and objectives, which really I believe are essential when evaluating this proposal. And encompassing goal 159, the county's goal is to support the retention of existing businesses. So if you go down the list, especially 159 2.2, encourage and implement incentives to maintain existing businesses. That's what Lee County did in terms of modifying their parking regulations to recognize the reality that Mount Shea is a mixed-use district. Also 159.23, establish and maintain regulations that enable small businesses such as the Blue Dog to undertake infill. The establish and maintain regulations, my interpretation is not only the parking modification but the deviations. So finally, when you look at 159.24, support local businesses, yes. So again, these are very, very important and significant policies that the project is consistent with, along with 2441, which, we need to encourage employment opportunities for both residents and visitors. Positive impact on traffic is that because it's located in Mount Lachey, and I'll get into this shortly, there is a very, very large amount of non-vehicular and pedestrian capture for the restaurants. So it implements 2441, and then going along with 2442, there are no impacts that this restaurant causes. Behind it is Mount Lachey Park, which is well buffered and separated. Along the east and west sides, they're commercial. Opposite on Pine Island Road, commercial. This is a minor commercial development. I know years ago they struck out the definition, but this is well under 30,000 square feet. So we are consistent with that. The 2451, the historic nature of the community as a fishing village is incorporated in the existing and reuse of its architecture. And again, 2453, county did evaluate the effects of the parking rules, and they changed that, again, recognizing the mixed-use nature. And then we're consistent with the various commercial goals, objectives, and policies embedded in 6.1. Now, to get into deviation, I would like to just start with deviation 17 because that's fundamental to the request. It's the consumption on premise for the outdoor deck. Staff recommends approval of the deviation. We were, I believe, Richard, in your presentation, we are requesting clarification to that, that no additional public hearings are needed, that this CPD request, will suffice to implement 341264A1G. So that's something that you would consider in terms of just verifying our interpretation and staff's approval. And then finally, I would like to point out that when you look at the site location exemptions for a restaurant, embedded in 1264B2B, we're fully compliant with the state rules and regulations. The restaurant serves fully cooked and prepared meals on site. There's no a sale of alcoholic beverages that are not going to the patrons that are dining on site. It's not a package store, if you will. So we meet the standards in that. But again, we seek clarification just to make sure that this is the only public hearing that we need.
Where was that language coming from in deviation 17? Because in attachment C on the schedule, it just said staff recommends approval. It wasn't, I could not find that language that was at issue.
You have the staff report, I didn't print it.
Hold on. Madam Examiner, can you clarify what language you're specifically
On deviation 17, where it says the staff report indicates the applicant must proceed with the public hearing, that I didn't see it in the language in attachment C, which is where they had codified the recommended conditions and deviations. That one just said staff recommends approval of this deviation. So we're okay with that if it just.
We are, yes. It was the language on page 10 of the staff report where they analyzed deviation 17. There was simply a note or some analysis in there that it was unclear to me of whether they were suggesting that there was a separate public hearing required, and I wanted that clarified. I did speak to Mr. Blackwell about that. I think we were on the same page. I know that there are some circumstances where when you don't know how far the building's gonna be set back, you have to come back in for a deviation for the COP, but we do know that here, so I don't believe that a secondary hearing would be necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
For that clarification.
And actually, Mr. Stewart, could you just briefly, since we're asking for a setback to the park, can you just again walk the hearing examiner through the canal and the other buffering between where the COP would be and the park, and the park is, just walk her through that briefly before we get off of this. Thank you.
Okay, and then that then would be, let's go on to the next slide. These are the ADD, here we go, the ADD carryover deviations in regard to setbacks. Number 2, Pine Island Road, 25 feet, and Matlacha Park Road, 25 feet. The setbacks are the existing setbacks that have been embedded in the previous ADD. They're 3.9 feet plus or minus, and then in the Matlacha Park Road setback, it's 11.3 to 11.8. In regard to the, can I have a copy of the site plan, Richard? Maybe I could do that. My eyes are, my eyes are shut. Yes, give me, can I have a copy of the full size? It's tough getting old. The master concept plan, not the The Madam Hearing Examiner, the setback from the park is, the setback to the property boundary is 22.36 feet. The canal is approximately 50 feet. It varies. It goes from 50 feet to 60 feet, but for the purpose of this discussion, you have a setback to the park property of a minimum 72 feet plus.
Okay, the deviation's for 50, so I assume that was just to be conservative to address the nearest point that you might be as that property boundary meanders over.
That's correct.
On this deviation though, and it's a question I can direct to staff, on the proposed deviation schedule on page 7, that was not one that was specifically identified to be withdrawn, but then on attachment C, it was shown as withdrawn. So I'm not sure if this one is being withdrawn or is this being retained?
To clarify, we're talking about the,
Number 1, deviation number 1.
okay, yeah, if we are, the attachment C is the correct document.
So that, you're recommending withdrawal of that deviation?
Yeah, to the PDR.
And applicant
Yes,
agrees?
it's my understanding that staff is, and we agree with staff, withdrawing the ADD carryover deviations 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But to paraphrase what Mr. Atkins said, our preference would be to have them in the resolution. That way, everything's just in one document. It's just a cleaner record, but we'll go with staff's recommendation.
Okay. I agree. We can have discussions. It seems like there's 2 separate recommendations for that, and it's something I can ask for staff. But on some of them, I understood for 2 through maybe 4 it was, not having them right in front of me, that the setbacks and things were codified in the schedule of property development. So that I understood. They were saying we don't need to address that because it's already been addressed in that condition. This one, however, is not. That was simply a carryover. So that's where I'm getting this question of, are we just carrying them over entirely or not? And it's a question, again, I can direct to staff when we get, unless you want to address it now.
Well, I can address now. Okay, yes, the ones that have been put onto withdrawal by us, that means withdrawal to be placed on the PDR, the Property Development Regulations. It seems that I did not put number 1 on the attachment C, so that would probably need to be included there.
So 1 needs to carry over, I believe, because that's not addressed in 2B.
Just to handle that, we're not really carrying them over. This document, this plan development, essentially supersedes the previous ADD. that ADD was for the C1 zoning situation. Now we have a whole new zoning district, and as such, we're creating the property development regulations from scratch. If they're based on the previous ADD, that's fine. We're okay with that. That's where they come from.
So if that's staff's position, though, number one would need to remain and not be withdrawn, correct?
It would need to be placed on attachment C as part of the PDR.
Okay, and staff would not recommend anything other than approval of that deviation then?
Correct, correct. We're okay with it. I simply didn't
Okay.
place it under
Thank you.
section.
Madam Hearing Examiner, you're reading my mind. Deviation 1, basically allows for shell rock parking. I believe that deviation just should stay as is, but again, we will go with staff's recommendation. So just to keep it simple, I already discussed 2. Deviation 3, this is the building setback, again, to permit the restaurant building and deck, the rear setback, that is, at 21.8 feet plus or minus. That reasonably relates to deviation 4, which is a setback from the water body. 25 foot is the standard. The existing building to water edge setback is at minimum 13.9.
Hold on. So what is the difference between 3 and 4? Because they're both from the 25-foot water body setback for 2 different distances. Are those just being measured from 2 different points?
No, the second one really is the outdoor patio.
Number 3 says for the main building and outdoor patio deck, and then number 4 says existing outdoor deck. But then the 2B is just a 4-foot water body setback for the rear deck.
No, Madam Hearing Examiner, you're correct. The master concept plan shows the rear setback pertaining to deviation 3. The water body setback may be, we have to ask for that because it's a different standard, but, excuse me, it's a different type of setback, but I believe the 13.9 may be a typo.
Well, if I may. So my understanding, and I'm looking at the ADD right now, I'd be happy to provide you with a copy, is, so we're sort of mimicking what's already in the existing ADD, which may be causing a little bit of confusion, all right? But in C, the C approval in the ADD provides for relief from the 25-foot minimum rear setback to allow an existing restaurant 21.82 feet. And then D is relief from C1 district for the 25-foot minimum water body setback to allow an existing restaurant 13.98. So I'm not clear why there's the difference between the 13.98 and the 21.82. I do believe that the reason why there's 2 separate deviations is one's from the property line and there's the water body setback as well. So those were 2 separate deviations. My understanding is that the 13.98 is actually, from looking at the plans, the distance from the back of the deck to the canal.
Are those both resolved by the 2B water body rear deck 4-foot setback? Or no? Because again, I don't want to get into a situation where we're just flippantly dismissing what's been approved and then you guys come in with a different measuring tool and decide that you've got to come back for some reason. If staff is saying they don't object to where things are, I just want to be sure the documents are in order. Because you've got the restaurant building water body setback is 22 feet, which doesn't match 21.8 or 13.9, but then you have a rear deck of 4 feet. So I'm not clear what we're deviating from.
This is one of the issues that staff stated at the end of the staff report, that we're having trouble because the master concept plan does not show the water body setbacks on it, and we need to get that clarified. We're okay with maintaining what is there as long as nothing's changing its distance. We just need for the applicant to clarify that.
Okay, so the distances for the water body setbacks is, I understood the testimony earlier, was not included on the amended MCP that was provided today. So they are going to do that.
Yes.
So once I receive that, I can proceed with a recommendation to the board, knowing that staff does not object to whatever those figures are, just cleaning this all up so that we can get where we need to get? Okay.
Correct.
I can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Look in the survey, and that one other aspect of this issue is that the original survey in the ADD was not consistent with a more contemporary survey. We did find a number of flaws in the original ADD, so the numbers in the ADD, we believe, were not correct.
Okay. And again, if staff isn't objecting, it's just a matter of getting the numbers accurate, but on the conservative end, so that you're not having to come back through this process or something equally arduous to accomplish what you've already accomplished. So I want to be mindful of that as we go through.
Okay, thank you. Deviation 5, street setback for the catering business. It's from a 25-foot setback to a 4-foot setback, plus or minus. So those are ADD carryovers. Excuse me. When you look at deviation 7 and deviation 8, they really pertain to the alternative betterment plan. The alternative betterment plan we're not changing, but the alternative betterment plan really didn't encompass or didn't state specifically the general tree planting requirement and the landscaping of parking and vehicular service areas. So these two deviations are more or less used to fill in the blank, fill in the hole, if you will. Nothing changes. It's just that we wanted to be accurate, and I believe staff wanted to be accurate. Hey, you need to include these two guys. So again, nothing changes under the sun in regard to the landscaping. The actual geometry of the parking lot is very important to this project because, again, as I mentioned, we are trying to do a flow-through. In order to do that, we had to tighten up some standards. Also, by tightening up standards, we are able to get another parking space. So having 25 parking spaces in a small minor commercial development such as this is important. So specifically, when you look at deviation 11, the street loading access standard, this is a continuation of the status quo. There is no dedicated off-street loading area for service trucks. What happens in the morning, from my observation, is they come into the parking lot and they offload and then they drive on to their next stop. So 11 more or less codifies the existing functional operations and applications of how one moves various restaurant goods into the building. Number 12, this gets into the geometry of the parking lot. The standard is to have, for angled parking spaces, 35, 45, or 60 degrees. And we're also asking for 35, 45, 60, or 70 degrees. So having a 70-degree stall for the stalls that are identified in that purplish circle help to create a more efficient parking layout. So the basis of that, it benefits the property and project by, again, creating a better efficiency in circulation, one additional parking space, and it still meets public health, safety, and welfare interest because a 10-degree variance on the existing standards are nothing to speak of. Continuing on with the parking space design and also the solid waste, we're requesting on deviation 13 to have compact parking spaces on the western row of the project. Typically, from my review of various historic district rules and regulations, from Key West to St. Augustine to Tarpon Springs to Coral Springs, they allow for compact parking spaces because usually, such as this, historic buildings and sites are small because they've been platted decades and decades ago. So this reflects the reality of how historic districts are treated, and again, this helps support 25 parking spaces. The next deviation 14, the standard for both enclosure of your service area and location. Yes, we're not requesting a deviation for the enclosure, but we are asking for a setback. And again, the concept being, in order to maximize the parking spaces and to have to prevent a dead end movement, so you need that recess. So that's where that deviation comes from, and it is highly beneficial to the project for the same reasons. It promotes better parking and circulation efficiency, and it gets us that extra parking space. And the same can be said for deviation 15. We're asking for, instead of a 24-foot wide parking aisle, in this specific area that's coinciding with the service area, the dumpster service area, and it's one for 3 parking spaces to have for 2 parking spaces to have a 22-foot aisle, and then it branches open into a 24-foot aisle. So that's de minimis, and again, it supports the project. Deviation 16, site access. We're working, we're working with staff diligently. We have been. This project, from my experience, Madam Hearing Examiner, I have never had a project this difficult. You have 4 driveway connections opposite of the property. Then you have 4 driveway connections on the same side of Pine Island Road. Getting the actual standards right has been difficult. I have worked with staff in September, and it ended up being an additional ROI response. I'll be meeting with staff, and I forgot the lady's name that I've been working with, but to make sure that this is right, staff supports the deviations because they reflect the status quo. It's just a matter of making sure that the actual numbers line up and the measuring points line up. I can walk you through that if you like, or you can just read it, because again, it's very, as you see on the master concept plan, it's very complicated.
And these are the measurements that were added to the revised MCP that I received today.
Yes, and they were included in the late September ROI submittal, and the measurements are from the the interior edge, not the center line. But again, staff has, we just asked some questions. We just need to make sure it's similar to the setbacks. We just need to make it right. Because again, if you read that deviation, Madam Hearing Examiner, you'll be scratching your head. I know I did. Okay, I've been saving the best for the last, which is deviation 9, the on-site parking. We're requesting a change from, based on the new rules, 35 spaces to allow for 25 spaces. Staff recommends approval, and we agree with that. I would like to present the basis for that, because it is important, and not just for this case, but there may be other projects that come in the Matlacha, and they're going to be facing the same issue because of the small lot and historic structure, and you're not changing the footprint scenario. So the context, we all know it's a historic village. It's an island village, small lots that for decades, these small businesses on these small lots have relied on a mixture of both on-site and off-site parking. The ADD plan in 2010, embedded in the LDO in 2012, approved 23 parking spaces. At the time, that was 11 parking space deficit. As I pointed out, the new rules require 35. We're providing 25. The 25 is based on the following, and then on the following pages I'll walk you through it, but between 2022 and 2025, either myself personally or Blue Dog staff conducted on-site surveys asking questions to the customers. How did you get here? Did you park on-site? Did you park off-site? Did you bike? Where did you bike from? Are you using the park? Are you using other commercial enterprises? So forth and so on. We, based on these 6 surveys taken over 3 years, have come up with an average of 22.9% of patrons are non-vehicular oriented in terms of accessing the restaurant. Using a 22.9% discount rather than the standard 10% discount, the Blue Dog then is required to have a 29 space parking lot. So consequently, it leaves us with a 4 parking space deficit rather than the larger 10 space deficit. Now, getting into that, we've had underpinning this deviation a lot of substantial and competent evidence. Bill Oliver's here to discuss his parking study. I've identified on items 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, and 10 the various parking surveys that were conducted. All of the parking surveys were done during peak season, such as number 2, Labor Day. Number 3, that was ramping into Thanksgiving, so maybe I'll backtrack on that. So 5 out of the 6 were done peak. 7, 8, 9, 10, peak. Season, specifically Easter, which is the busiest, leading up to Easter, it is the busiest seasonal thrust for food, beverage, boating, you name it, in Matlacha. So we did peak season surveys. If you look at the graphic, what it does is show the location of the Blue Dog restaurant that is in red, the adjoining vacant lot that is used on occasion, not permanently, but on occasion, more often than not in season, used as a commercial parking lot. It shows in number 3, the Remax commercial office building, of which we have an informal agreement for shared parking that is in the record. Item 4, the area associated with 4 is I call it the Perfect Cup Plaza. It's a mixed-use plaza that the Perfect Cup restaurant closes at 3, so you have that used for spillover parking. Number 5 is the post office. Again, that it has no hours during the evening. So my point is, as we get into the surveys and survey results, what we find and what I've observed over decades of living in Matlacha is that a lot of the locals, such as myself, will bike or walk. A lot of the non-locals will just, hey, this plaza, Perfect Cup is closed, we'll just park there. The same thing with the post office. The Matlacha Park is another example. Madam Hearing Examiner, I absolutely can assure you I've been at that park over 300 times in my Matlacha career, and I've going with my grandkids, playing basketball, dropping off my boat, fishing off the pier, walking, using the exercise paracourse. I mean, I've been there. I've seen how it works, and I see a lot of times boaters that come in, they hook up their boat, they repark it, and they walk to. I'm assuming the Blue Dog. I'm not following, but they're walking into town. I see people at the park. After they get off their swing sets, they walk down Matlacha Park. I'm assuming a lot of these people are walking towards the park. I see people that are fishing on the bridge. I do see this, they're walking, they stash their rods and reels and they walk to the Blue Dog. So that's kind of how this island rolls. It's a historic district and people are walking. If they're at the former Wild Child Gallery or the Leona's Gallery, a lot of times, we'll just park there and just walk down the street. So the top chart shows where I came up with the 22.9% average. For example, Labor Day weekend in 2022, there was over 33% that didn't park on site, that walked or used other non-vehicular means. That contrasts with, let's say, spring season, April 4, 2025, 17.5%. Easter weekend, 2024, 30.5%. So when you average that out, hey, 22.9% for discussion purposes, hey, 20 to 23% of the people that use the restaurant, walk or bike or scooter, or in fact, you'd have to blow this up, but these are the 2025 survey findings, and for graphic purposes, I did not include the final right column, but the right column shows how people are accessing the park and restaurant, and it's done by from 11 to 12, 12 to 1. It goes all the way down to the closing. The restaurant's open at 11, and they stop serving at 9. So I personally did these, and the results are identified. So you have people, I've seen it too, coming, they tie their boat in the back. A lot of people Uber. Walking, scootering, biking. So because this is, again, an old-fashioned historic village, you get a higher degree. It's not 10%, it's 22.9% on average. And I would like to say that in Lee County, there is not a historic district in Lee County that has this type of pedestrian orientation. Maybe Boca Grande, the downtown area, but even still, Boca Grande doesn't have it. Matlacha is the most pedestrian-oriented area in incorporated Lee County. I'm not dealing with the downtown Fort Myers area. Certainly it supersedes the downtown Bonita Springs area. So when you look at how Deviation 9 works and how it is supported, again, we agree with staff. Again, I want to again point out that the previous approval in ADD 2010, there was 11 parking space deficit. The deviation reflects a long-standing use and character of Matlacha. It reflects the use of the park and other off-site areas. Again, pointing out, we've got a much higher percentage of non-vehicular access. We have an informal agreement with RE/MAX. It's on the record. Certainly, deviation 9 is consistent with goal 159, which is, hey, Lee County, please support local businesses, and also 159.2.1, which is to retain and assist local businesses. Certainly, deviation 9, and this is really to the heart of it. It's deviation 9 supports the continuation of the outdoor dining area because the issue was parking. The staff originally couldn't support it. Now they can support it. Without that outdoor dining area, I think specifically, let's see, there are around 44 tables representing, and I believe 129 total seating capacity. So this represents well over 30% of this total seating capacity of this restaurant. So the approval of this is just so important. And again, we really appreciate staff for recommending approval. And with that, I would like to introduce Bill Oliver because his firm actually conducted the original 2022 parking study.
Thank you.
Madam Representative, can I provide you with a copy of his resume?
And that will be applicant exhibit 6. Thank you. Sir, I think you weren't here when I did the oath. If you could raise your hand. Do you
Right.
swear or affirm the testimony you will provide is the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes,
And you
sorry.
had previously, just to clarify, you've previously qualified in this venue. You're just updating the resume that we have on file?
Yes, it's been a few years.
Thank you. Well, welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, your traffic engineer got caught in traffic this morning.
The irony is not lost on any of us.
Okay. Yes, so the Blue Dog commissioned a study of parking throughout the Matlacha Business District area. And the point was just to see what the status was of how many people really do want to park there, how many spaces are provided. And so that's what we did. And we chose the Labor Day weekend 2022 as a high demand time, especially in the park area where people are coming to launch boats and that sort of thing. So we did the study Labor Day weekend, broke down our observations into all those sub areas that are noted on that graphic. We observed the time period was from 4 to 9 p.m. on the Friday of that weekend, and from 1 o'clock to 8:40 p.m. on Saturday. And we also observed the parking and distinguished the parking, whether it was occurring on the public right-of-way or in delineated spaces. And that's important because if the county were to pursue a strategy of trying to regulate the parking or prohibit the parking on the public right-of-way, we just wanted to be sure that we have enough off-street parking available. So the comparisons that you're going to see in the subsequent slides are the total parking demand that we observed, but the number of parking spaces indicated are the off-street delineated, well, not in every case delineated, but the off-street, off-public right-of-way parking. Now, I'm not suggesting that the county should change what's going on parking-wise, but my point in saying that was just to provide you with the assurance that the study we've done, the comparisons we're making are conservative in nature, and that's important. So as part of the study, we had a crew out that drove the circuit every 20 minutes, so it's every 20-minute observations. I personally did walk the site to become more familiar with it as we were designing the study, so I'm familiar with what is going on out there. Yes. General findings of what I observed was that the other businesses, tend to close in the 3 to 4 in the afternoon time period. So their parking drops off and diminishes pretty substantially at that point in time. The Remax office site, which is the closest, well, the second closest, nearby parking lot. They've provided permission for the Blue Dog customers to use their lot, and there's a letter to that effect in the case file. And as Greg mentioned, the survey that Greg has done indicated 23% of the Blue Dog customers don't use their cars or rely on the on-street parking or the parking lot of the restaurant itself to park. So, and the explanation here is that the dots that are in blue would indicate parking that is occurring that can be accommodated off of the public right-of-way. The dots that are in red indicate some reliance on parking in the right-of-way. So as you can see, the figure on the left is the Blue Dog parking lot itself. Quite a bit of parking in the right-of-way adjacent to the Blue Dog site, indicated by those red dots, and it's obvious that the Blue Dog parking lot as it existed at the time could not handle all the parking that was being used, and it's no surprise. That's why we're here to talk more about the deviation and what alternative parking is available. The figure on the right adds into it both the parking that we observe. It adds the Remax site. It adds both the parking that we observed in the Remax site as well as their spaces. So if you look at the number of vehicles parked, say for example at that first line, 4 p.m. on Friday, when we looked at the Blue Dog site itself in figure 3, you can see that there were 20 cars parked there and maybe 21 cars in the next 20-minute observation. But when we add the Remax site in, we're looking at 26 and 27 cars total. So it includes the additional cars that were in the Remax lot to be sure we picked everything up. We also then looked at a case where we looked not only at the Blue Dog site, the Remax site, plus that adjacent private parking lot immediately adjacent and west of the Blue Dog site. With that parking added, there's plenty of parking available through those sites. We then went beyond and said, let's look also at the park. The park has quite a few parking spaces. There's some literally across the channel, which would be the spaces that I would anticipate possibly being used as overflow parking. And we have plenty of parking available.
Just to clarify, all of these are relying on an on-site 22 space?
No.
But they're requesting 25.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because, two things. One is how many spaces they had in the previous site plan. They worked on that site plan and can achieve actually some more spaces than what we thought at the time we did this study.
Okay, so these figures would actually, this is more conservative than what would actually be under the deviation.
Yes, you got it. Thank you.
Yes. So, and one other thought about these observations. Let's see, here we go. Is that in our analysis and in the report, we totally, and I'm not sure why, we totally failed to talk about, let me back up, Area 7 parking, which is right down in this area from the Blue Dog restaurant down to here is a 580-foot walk. It's not a terribly burdensome walk. An additional 16 parking spaces there that we didn't even talk about. I kind of picked up on this as I was preparing my notes, that are literally public parking. I mean, you're at 90 degrees, you're using the street to back out a little on some of those spaces, but it's there, it's available. We didn't observe more than 9 cars in that lot, I think one time on a Saturday. Most of the time, the parking spaces are sitting there empty. So the point is that what this study supports in our minds is that there's ample parking either in the park, in the Remax lot, in that Area 7 lot down on Matt Lachey Drive. totally available for use, and so, again, the business has been in operation the way we're seeking the deviations to support, and those are the demands we've observed. So with that, I think that concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
So, Madam Hearing Examiner, that brings us to the conclusion of our presentation. We, again, just want to state, and, you know, I want to say this in this case specifically, how much we appreciate staff working through this with us, because it's been a long process, and we understand the difficulties of it. But we do believe that the deviations are compatible with the existing and planned uses in the surround area. That the actual, and you know, in my opinion, and my opinion may not matter, but I do think that the actual reality of the fact that this seating has existed for such a long period of time, even if it was never legitimized through a deviation with regard to the outdoor seating in the restaurant and the parking, it has in reality existed. And that there has not been an observed parking problem either by the owner of the restaurant or, as far as we're concerned, with others in the area, hasn't come to our attention throughout the studies that we've done. We think that's probably the most compelling evidence, frankly, that the deviation should be granted. The other additional information that you heard from Mr. Stewart and Mr. Oliver, obviously we believe supports that conclusion as well through the actual data and analysis of what we're trying to achieve here. So we think that the deviation is supported, and we appreciate staff again working through it with us. That concludes our presentation. If you have any further questions or need a further analysis of any kind from us, we'd be happy to do it.
Thank you. I asked as I went through. Do you need a break? Okay. All right. We'll continue then with the staff presentation whenever you're ready.
Good morning. For the record, Peter Blackwell with the Lee County Zoning Section. For the case today, DCI 2023-00045, the applicant gave a very good presentation, very comprehensive, and I won't dwell on issues that they covered very well, but I will get on with what I need to do. So, hold on, I gotta. It's got to be on the right screen.
You provided me, this is a hard copy of your presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I will label that Staff Exhibit 3. I had Staff Exhibit 1 was your staff report, and then Staff Exhibit 2 was the affidavit of publication you provided as part of your 48-hour. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, yes. As we know, the applicant proposes to rezone to a commercial plan development on less than 1 acre of property, and as part of this request to allow an outdoor COP for the rear seating area. This includes many deviations from the site design requirements. A little bit of additional backstory. As you saw, this case is from 2023, and the main loggerhead has always been the parking. Staff was always opposed to the increase in parking, in seating, because of the increase in parking. Although they did not meet parking as they were, that existed. That was not something that we could force a change on. Now what has happened is that the Land Development Code has a new regulation, new section, Section 34-2020C, which allows historic districts to use a parking multiplier, in this case for reduction, similar to what's used in the mixed-use overlay. In this future land use category, you can multiply by 0.6 to get a 40% discount on your required parking. One thing that might be a difference between the staff and the applicant's calculations is that 34-2020E says that the property, in order to use this discount, they have to use the rate of calculation for a single-use property rather than a multiple use. But I'll talk about that deviation in greater detail. They went into detail what surrounds the property very well. Yeah. And as you can see, all, except for the park, all of the island, all of the community is in the urban community future land use category. And you can see the commercial zoning for the vast majority of the Pine Island Road Strip. For the review criteria, I will go over these individually. And keep in mind, in addition to 34-145-D4, we do also have to do the plan development review criteria, not just the standard rezoning criteria. The applicant went over the economic and Pine Island section of the Lee plan. However, I'm going to go over some of these earlier ones. It does conform to the urban community. The mix of uses in that area supports that the existing use on the property. The location is suitable due to the close proximity of similar uses along that strip. And for that reason also does not encroach into any residential areas. The property is very well screened from residential areas by intervening properties. I'm not going to say this was well planned, since this community came around long before planning, but it does represent good faith effort now to do good planning for commercial. It's not premature. This is the definition of infill. It does serve the needs of the Pine Island community, and it does promote rehabilitation over demolition, an important consideration since we're in the historic district. Now, as we've discussed, they cannot meet the parking site design requirements. That's why we're going through this process. As we've discussed, many of the proposed deviations were based on earlier ADD from 2010. We're having to incorporate them here in this process because of the fact that we're moving from the original C1 zoning to a new zoning district, and so they have to be codified and adopted into it. And that is where the planning development, property development regulations, deviations, and conditions come in. So we are using the proper regulations and processes. We've gone over the compatibility of the surrounding area. The sufficient access, they do have the two driveways, and they're not asking to make any changes to them. The situation is as it is. And likewise, the expected impacts on transportation will not be changed. The property is pretty well built out. We're having to give deviations because they can't even meet the standard buffers. So, there's not much environmentally critical property near them to affect. It is served by Lee County Utilities and Pine Island Water Association for their water and sewer. And of course, fire, police, and EMS are all available. Okay. For the PD rezoning criteria, again, appropriate for the location. The system we're going through right here using a PD provides the safeguards for for any concerns by staff for public welfare and such. And it does conform to 145-D4. So the additional PD rezoning are also okay. Now I'm going to go through some of the deviations here. Deviation 1, the high turnover parking lot. Yes, we support that and have it addressed as approval here. However, withdrawing it to place it on the PDR, the property development regulations, would also be acceptable to staff.
For number 2, though, so I understand the logic that staff is having, that they don't need to deviate from 34-845 because that doesn't apply anymore, because now they're in a PD and not C1. I understand that. But doesn't 2192 still apply? So would they not still need a deviation from that?
Oh, you're talking about for number 2?
For number 2.
No, by creating the PDRs as part of this district, we can customize the setbacks for streets.
Okay,
and
so they do not need a deviation even as a PD from that section. I just want to be very clear that, again, we're not.
Right, we're creating the new regulation that they have to conform to as part of this. And so that essentially covers number 2. And again, number 3 and 4, we've discussed, we're okay with approving or providing relief that grants them what they already have. We're just going to need to get the precise calculations. For number 5, the 25-foot street setback for the secondary building, that again, we're approving for the, or recommending to be addressed in the PDR. Number 6, withdrawn by the applicant. Number 7, for the landscape betterment, environmental staff recommended approval. Same with the general planting in number 8. Number 9, the parking calculation. Again, the applicant seemed to use a different route than staff to get to their numbers, but the end result is the same. 35 required and 25 being acceptable to staff. It's because of what I said earlier. The regulations came to meet them. Let's see, 10. The building perimeter plantings was withdrawn by the applicant. The off-street loading area, again, they're preserving what is historically there. And in this particular case, being a historic restaurant in a historic district, we're okay with that use. The number 12, the parking lot dimensions and requirements, staff is okay with those. It helps them meet their goal to provide that circulation objective. Same with number 13 for the geometry of the parking spaces. The dumpster enclosure was moved, or is proposed to be moved from very near the restaurant down to the far end of the restaurant. I understand their desire to do that. And so to accommodate that, they're asking for a little bit of space. The section number 15, again, the parking aisle geometry, it's a pretty de minimis requirement. DOT or Development Services staff had no issues with that. Number 16, the driveway connection separation. The applicant worked hard with DOT staff upstairs. I believe it was Brittany Banker was the person in question. When the applicant resubmits a new MCP that has the proper setback distances, I'm going to see if what they've supplied with their separation connections is what I understand to be correct, because I saw it and I disagreed with the connection points, which ones were used, but I'm going to confirm with the DOT staff. They had no problem with it, then we don't. And for 17, the COP. Now the COP issue was raised because although they claim to have had their rear outdoor seating area for quite a while, it didn't come to our attention until COVID came along. They were allowed to use outdoor seating in lieu of their indoor, but then when COVID went away, both seating areas remained, and that's what caused some of these code violations.
So on that last slide, it said for 17, it was approval subject to condition, but is there a condition? Because there was not a condition in attachment C, so I want to be clear on that.
Okay. I think it's the condition was, I think in section 3 of attachment C, where it said no outdoor entertainment or amplified music.
So you want 17, it's just not codified, it's not provided in your recommendation on attachment C. There's no subject to language, so if you want me to add that.
Okay, yes, it should be on there if it's not on there.
Applicant, I'm sure doesn't object because the condition's already there, it's just not included.
Okay. Yeah, on the outdoor consumption premises, page 2 of
Yes, the condition 4 is there. I'm saying under your deviation schedule on page 4 or 5 of attachment C, it just says staff recommends approval. It doesn't say approval subject to condition. So if
Okay.
you want me to loop it back,
You had me panicked there. I thought I hadn't included those conditions.
no, the condition is there. It's that. I wanted to be clear on what you're actually.
Approve with conditions. Yes, ma'am. And so, the issues with the COP are, the main one is proximity to inappropriate uses. The closest one being the park. They're opposite a parking area within the park and not really an area that you expect a lot of people to be at, especially after dark. The nearest property that would be in direct line of sight, residential property of that rear deck, is almost 500 feet away, and there's intervening vegetation. Everything to the north that's within 500 feet is screened by the building and by Pine Island Road. And for the regulations and conditions, the standard conditions for conforming to the MCP apply, and conforming to any LDC regulations that are not otherwise varied here. We won't go over those details, but yeah, number 4, the consumption on premises is one we were just discussing. No alcohol service permitted after kitchen hours, and no live entertainment or amplified music permitted in the outdoor seating area. So, but the hours of operation are the same as the restaurants, I believe, 11 to 9. So in conclusion, based on the previous presentation and analysis, staff is recommending approval of this rezoning from commercial C1 to a commercial plan development CPD with the deviations and conditions to include the outdoor COP. And if you have any questions, I stand ready.
Thank you. No, I asked as I went through. Did applicant have any questions of the staff? Mr. Aiken, I apologize. Did you have any questions of the staff before I dismiss?
I don't know that it's a question specifically for testimony here. I just wanted to clarify one thing, because Mr. Stewart said if we're looking at attachment C, condition 1, where it's got development is limited to 4,537 square feet of commercial intensity, including 795 square feet of outdoor seating. That's okay. There is the outdoor cooling structure, so it would exclude that, is my understanding. That's how we've, in the application. I just don't want to have an issue.
Correct. All the existing buildings on the site are okay with staff. If we need to adjust that number to reflect those, that's okay.
Okay, well, since we've got to leave the record open, can we clarify this and make sure we
Okay.
get the numbers right?
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Were there any further questions?
No, that was it. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
We're going to take a break and let everyone stretch their legs, and we will resume in, let's call it 15 minutes at 10:45, and we'll start with public comment at that time. Thank you. Okay, we are back on the record and I'm ready to begin. I will call the cards in the order that I have them. And if I mess up anyone's name, I apologize. I never intend to, but I am notoriously bad about that. The first one I have is for Aaron Beretta. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Examiner. My name is Aaron Beretta. I am a resident of Mount Shea Isles. So I'm coming on behalf of the residents and folks who, like me, live there. So I'm a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army, and I chose this area to retire in because of its vibrancy and because of the community. And with that, I do sit on 3 nonprofit boards within my greater community. And from that, the first point I'd like to say is I can attest to the fact how the Blue Dog and how the Lynches have supported their community. With that, obviously, I'm involved in multiple fundraisers and multiple community events throughout the year. And oftentimes we go to the Blue Dog, and it's a donation of time, it could be a donation of money, it could be their kitchen helping community events. So I can absolutely attest from those different boards I sit on that they're a vibrant member of the community as a whole. The second point I'd like to make, being a resident, is talk about disaster recovery and what they've done locally. You need a stalwart, you need a beacon of hope. And whether it was Ian, Helene, or Milton, the Blue Dog was up and running quickly. The next day, they're out there cleaning, they're helping neighbors. And with that stalwart, then other community businesses go along and say, hey, maybe we can do it too. So from that standpoint in the community, absolutely vitally essential to support the deviation so they continue that vibrancy in the community. Next, I'd like to talk about the economic impact. As we talk about these storms, we've lost 4 other restaurants and a hotel. So when we talk about supporting an art community like Mount Lachey, when you go down there, you don't just go to the Blue Dog. You also go to the art museums. You may walk across the CW Fudge. Maybe you need a cup of coffee at the Perfect Cup. And then I'll talk how that relates to parking. When I go up to that part of town, maybe my first stop is CW Fudge. I'm like, man, I need to stop in for a drink at the Blue Dog. I don't repark my car. I walk across the street. You know, maybe I bring visitors to the Blue Dog. Hey, let's go down to the art shop so you can get a tourist item before you guys fly back home. We don't go repark. We just go from the Blue Dog. So the community as a whole operates like that. So as a resident and a resident of this area, I greatly support all the deviations and hope you approve them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. The next card I have is for Aaron Lindbert. Good morning.
Morning, ma'am. Thank you for allowing us to speak. My name is Erin Lawler Lambert. I am a Bokeelia resident, longtime Bokeelia resident. I am also the executive director of the Greater Pine Island Alliance, the long-term recovery group for our community.
Excuse me, the director of what?
The Greater Pine Island Alliance, we're the county, state, and federally recognized long-term recovery group for the community.
Slow down, the federal and state alliance.
The Greater Pine Island Alliance, we are the county, state, and federally recognized long-term recovery group for the area. All right. So as the executive director of a nonprofit, I work with many community, obviously, leaders, business owners, as well as residents. And I can tell you through my work throughout the area, as well as other areas, that the Lynches and the Blue Dog are the prime example of what you want community leadership to look like. They have never faltered in any disaster that we have had. They actually voluntarily host the GPIA Starlink so that Mount Lachey will never again be cut off from communications. They have hosted the American Red Cross for me. They have hosted International Christian Orthodox Charities for us. They are the absolute quintessential example of what you want in community leadership. The additional seating represents more than 20 employees that would be displaced in a community that is already still struggling to recover. So the Greater Pine Island Alliance, as well as myself as a resident, longtime resident, I've eaten on that patio for years and years and years, and we fully support this commission or this organization to support the rezoning.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
The next card I have is for Bonnie Mully. Good morning.
Good morning or afternoon. Anyhow, thank you for hosting even the residents here. I am a resident of Mount Lachey, have been for decades. Remember when the Snook Inn and the Mulletville and Loblolly were vibrant. My home is about a mile from the Blue Dog. And as a child, it was like a vacation home. Mom and I would walk from our home to the restaurants. I can say that pretty much 25% of the population of the areas by the village, most everybody walks. It's not only because we walk with our dogs or with our friends or with our visitors, even the vacation rental people, you'll see them up and down Island Avenue walking. So it is, specifically, the parking is never an issue for those people. People coming into that community, again, I'll say, as a realtor and also on the Matlacha Civic Board, we do have quite a bit of visitors there. And the ones that come and stay at the vacation rental homes, one thing they draw from that area is it's a place to go where you can go, park your car, and spend a week there and walk to the restaurants and walk to get coffee and walk to the post office, walk to the art gallery. So from that standpoint, and the Lynches have been nothing but and the Blue Dog has been nothing but I think a beacon of hope was the perfect way to put it. Whenever there was a storm, we knew that they would rise first. So thank you.
The next card I have is for Lisa Johnson. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Lisa Marie Gurman Johnson. And first, I'd like to say that I am completely here to strongly support the Blue Dog in the reason to include their zoning. Okay, so really quick story. A little over 10 years ago, somebody dared me to come to Matlacha on vacation, so I did. And one of the places we went into was Blue Dog. Walked right through, went into the back, sat down, drank and ate. A couple months later, we bought a house. So food was that good. That day, what was besides the food, the atmosphere, we sat in the back by the water. We thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And when we were going back through, we saw an individual dressed like Elvis. And his name is Jesse. And I sat there and thought to myself later on, this is where I want to be. I want to be a place where I'm by the water, people are friendly, and they look like Elvis Presley. So here we are a little over 10 years later, and we still go into Blue Dog. We walk there. We have people, anywhere from 2 to 12 people walking from our house to the Blue Dog, which is a sight, by the way, to see. And when we get there, I get to say I hug the owners, I hug the cook, I hug the waitress, whether they like it or not. They get these hugs from me because of how welcoming they are and what they do for our community. We've been through a lot together since the Elvis days, and I don't see us going anywhere except for staying in Matlacha. And it started with Corona and an Elvis. One last thing on the record, they need to name the BLT after me. Thank you.
The next card I have is for, oh goodness, Jennifer Johnson. I apologize, and before you speak, I don't have my glasses off, so that's not helping me out right now. Okay. One moment. Joys of aging, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Why I don't have any notes.
Yes, I apologize. Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Johnson. I live on the main drag, which is Pine Island Road. Our house is about 800 feet, so right outside of where everybody was talking about, that 500 feet radius kind of from Blue Dog. We've lived there for over a decade. One of the things that I want to make sure that you know is not only do Jesse, John, and Tammy contribute enormously to our community, and then they're vital aspects of the community. Blue Dog itself as a business contributes enormously to our community. The walkability of Matlacha is extremely important and extremely vital, and that's why one of the things that you might see in the courthouse here is the Little Pine Island Bridge construction, how much controversy that has raised. Well, we live right there by the Little Pine Island Bridge. Even with that construction, walking to the Blue Dog has not stopped. We see people going over and through the construction, getting to the Blue Dog. All that walkability is extremely important. We own VRBO and Airbnb items as well in our area. And that is one of the things that is extremely important for our guests, is that they don't want to park somewhere else. They want to leave their car. They want to walk throughout the community. I would say the vast majority of the people, and I know they're saying 23% or so are walking to the Blue Dog. I think that's a low number personally. And the back seating that this is all regarding is extremely important as well. I mean, that back seating has been there for years and years and years and years. As long as we've been there, that back seating has existed. So not only am I coming from the standpoint of a resident right there, a business owner right there, but the economic value of having Blue Dog and this deviation to go with this is extremely important, and we strongly support it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Dave Connor. Good morning.
Morning. My name is Dave Connor, and I am the president of the Greater Pine Island Chamber of Commerce, which includes Matlacha. So you've heard a lot from a lot of my friends here, so I'm going to keep it a little short because otherwise I'd be saying the exact same things. The chamber, the Blue Dog has the chamber's full support for this application, and they are like an economic hub in Matlacha. And if you're familiar with the area, you got to go through Matlacha to get to Pine Island. I live in Bokeelia, which is only like 2 miles away. But again, we support them totally. Thank you.
John Lynch. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Hearing Examiner, and thank you and Mr. Blackwell and everybody else for being here. I'll be brief. My name's John Lynch. I'm a 29-year resident of Matlacha and owner of Blue Dog Bar and Grill, along with Jesse Tincher, my business partner over there. A couple of things, I'll be very brief. We are, and I learned after AM, we are an economic engine in Matlacha, and in turn Pine Island as well. Our outdoor seating we've had from when we moved in, even prior to that as Mulletville, they did have some outdoor seating. So it's been established there for a long time. If we're required to move 30% of our seating, or to lose that, I'll also be losing 30% of my sales, which means 30% of my staff, most of which are Pine Island and Matlacha staff. Not only that, that means 30% less sales on stone crab, blue crab, mullet, snapper, grouper. These are local families that provide this. So it's a wide ripple effect that this would have. I mean, it seems like something like, okay, it's one business that'll be affected, but it's not. It's the community, and economically the community at large. I also wanted to touch on that we do have agreements with Barn Hills right across the street for parking, as well as Remax across the street who have parking as well. And for years we've had this agreement. The owner of the property, Remax Properties here, he's going to speak here in a little bit as well, just to reiterate that yes, we have agreements. as well as what we spoke about multiple times, the park in the back, which is not our personal parking. However, the reality is people do park there and on the streets. So that's all I've got. Once again, thank you all for this. All right.
Thank you. Next, I have Eric Seifert. Good morning.
Good afternoon, or good morning. I'm Eric Seifert. My wife and I own Remax Sunshine that's directly across the street. We also own Brightway Insurance that's 3 miles down the road. I'm here, I'm sorry, I got my notes. My wife would have done this so much better. I'm here to strongly pledge my support for the Blue Dog and the zoning changes. We have pledged our parking spot with, we have in excess of 25 spots, most of which, we don't need. We maybe need 3 or 4 at a time. And our peak times are run counter to the Blue Dog. So there's ample spots there, and we still have empty spots even when they are full. As far as from a real estate and community perspective, the Blue Dog is not just a business, it's an anchor for Matlacha. My business, both of our businesses and everybody else's profit and take advantage of that. Matlacha, especially right now post-hurricane, needs stable, proven establishments that draw people to the island and create jobs and economic activity on the island. The Blue Dog has been part of Matlacha for decades and generations. You can't just manufacture that kind of history or character. Again, I hope you approve their application, and thank you.
Next, I have Chris Walczyk.
Good morning, Madam Mayor. My name's Chris Walczyk. I live on Matlacha as well, and like everybody else, we've been struggling to get through, and I feel the pain to get to this point. It's like everybody else, because I as well have a property that's in process, so trying to get there. Just wanted to point out that obviously Matlacha existed before the Building and Zoning Department came in, so we do have an issue, a root issue, where these zoning requirements did not conform to kind of what was there. And the process to accommodate minor changes, or you probably see and understand. So hopefully when this gets to hearings or to the commissioners, we can talk maybe more about some kind of overlay and something like that, because it's hard to identify who would actually do and what to do, but we feel the pain, physically, emotionally, and financially through all this. So just wanted to point that out, but at the same time, provide my support for the rezoning and deviation request, because everybody likes Matlacha because it's eclectic and because of this, but it didn't become that way because of this kind of regulation. And we're going to struggle in between everything, but we're doing our best to clean up and maintain and work forward in the right process, So all good intentions are out there. I think the community supports one another, and we're going to continue to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Steve Eldridge.
I'm not speaking.
Okay, thank you, sir. Matthew Otto.
Not speaking.
Okay, thank you, sir. Jonathan Wagner.
I'm the same. I'm just observing.
Okay. Kathleen Walsh. Good morning.
Hi, Madam Hearing Examiner. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and also Mr. Blackwell and all the friends and neighbors who are here. My name is Kathleen Walsh. I'm a member of the Matlacha Civic Association Board of Directors. I'm also a member of the Lee County Historical Preservation Board. I'm not here in that official capacity, But I bring that up just to say I'm intimately familiar with the variances that we at HPB offer properties in the historical area. Most importantly, I'm a neighbor of Matt Lachey, Blue Dog. I live right up the street, probably 4 or 5 doors up from Blue Dog. And I can attest that I've had no issues whatsoever with parking in the right-of-way. If there were parking in the right-of-way, I wouldn't be able to get out of my driveway. And so I fully support this variance, this deviation support, and I appreciate you allowing me to come and say that.
Thank you. Next, I have Jody Link. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for letting us be here today. We really appreciate all the efforts that everybody has put into this. We live in Mount Lachey, just down the road on Island Avenue from the Blue Dog. And I think it was said earlier, economic engine in Mount Lachey, and that is precisely what we see. And being from up north, people look forward to coming down here specifically to walk to the Blue Dog. And as we travel, we wear something Blue Dog. It's like, hey, we've been there. And so we're very proud of our community and all of the efforts that people, all the Blue Dog owners, all of us neighbors, how we band together to help each other out. And so it would have been easy to come up and say what they said. So I will say what they said. And thank you very much for considering this, and we very much support these efforts. Thanks.
The last card I have is for Carol Scott. Good morning.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Thank you for allowing our community to come here. Excuse me. I'm Carol Scott. I'm a resident of Mount Lachey, and I'm the president of the Mount Lachey Civic Association. After 3 devastating hurricanes, with help and support of John Lynch, Jesse Tincher, Tammy, owners of the Blue Dog, the Civic Association has been able to continue with monthly meetings. They graciously opened their doors, never asking for a fee for the restaurant, for the community to continue its meetings and to learn about Lee County updates, what they were doing for us, and other crucial county recovery information. The Blue Dog opened their doors for us to be there. This continues even today. We have no place to meet. We hope to be there in our new civic building later in the year, maybe this spring, but we thank you. Now we are discussing, I don't know why I'm choking up. It's just that they're so wonderful. Look at this community. We've all come out. I just find us having this discussion for parking very challenging. The hurricanes were challenging. It's ironic that the civic meetings held inside the Blue Dog, hosted by Lee County, we hosted Lee County leaders to come in the Blue Dog and be our guest speakers. So they came, Lee County came, and now we're challenging them on parking. And still this continues. Let us partner and give back to these restaurant owners. We can understand why they won the Island Angel Award last year. And if you don't know what it is, it's an award that we give to the community for those who have done outstanding support. And they have been doing this since they opened their doors. I carry the voices of the Mount Lachey residents. We are overwhelmingly supporting the Blue Dog, as it has become a keystone in Mount Lachey in our culture, community support, and an economic powerhouse to our island. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you. That was the last card that I had. Was there anyone else present that wished to speak today? Okay, so we'll come back to the applicant and the staff. Were there any comments that either party wanted to put on the record before we close?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. So we do need to leave the record open, and I want to give you guys some time to go through. 2 weeks?
Yeah, would that be okay?
Yes,
From
absolutely.
tomorrow, 2 weeks from tomorrow?
Yeah, so let me set a date. What does that put us? February 20th by end of business. I think everyone knows what we need to do. The only other thing I would ask is on the master concept plan, since you're gonna be massaging it anyway to add those or correct the distances, can we also remove the deviations that are being removed, because that is a little confusing, and just get some clarity on that? Because the last thing I wanna do is have you guys have to come through this process again to acknowledge something that's already been acknowledged, and then we're acknowledging it and then come back again. So just get very tight if we can, to get rid of whatever can be gotten rid of, but not get rid of things that we need to keep. So we need to keep number 1 of the deviations, and then the withdrawn ones that either applicant or staff recommended approval of, that you're in agreement on, just present those to me. And anything that's being withdrawn, please remove from the master concept plan. If you want to retain the numbering, because that's easier throughout the process, however you guys want to do that. If you skip from 1 to, what are we going to be at?
6.
1 to 6 or 7, however. With 6, they said was withdrawn by applicant, is that correct?
7, yeah.
7, right, then that's fine, but just, you know, then I can just put that they're withdrawn, but I want to get that clean so you guys don't have to continue to go through a process to do something that's already been done. So thank you, everyone, for coming. I really do appreciate it. It is a beautiful community, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here, especially on such a rainy day, and the one that's not too cold, so hopefully we can enjoy that. But thank you, everyone, for coming, and again, you'll get a copy of the recommendation and the date when it goes to the board. So thank you. Please stay well. Thank you.